When I was in third grade, my teacher taught my class about a distinction between facts and opinions. A fact, she said, is something that's true for everyone, while an opinion is something that's only true for some people. The sky is blue. The earth is round. 2 plus 2 equals 4. These are facts. They're true, and if someone disagrees with them, then we can say, you're wrong. But statements like vanilla ice cream is better than chocolate ice cream are opinions. They're not necessarily true or false, and people can disagree with them. So here's my question for you. Statements about right and wrong, moral statements, are these facts or opinions? This question forms the basis for one of the most popular arguments for the existence of God, the argument from morality, or as I'm calling it in this video, the argument from moral realism. Because what this argument tries to show is that at least some moral statements must be facts, not opinions. And because of this, God must exist. Well, how do you figure that? The first thing this argument needs to show is that at least some moral statements can't be opinions and therefore must be facts. And there's a couple ways it tries to do this, but I'm just going to focus in on one of them. And that's the idea that opinions aren't binding, and at least some moral statements are. When I tell you that I think vanilla ice cream is better than chocolate ice cream, I'm not necessarily asking you to agree with me. If you told me that you think chocolate ice cream is better than vanilla ice cream, I'm not gonna fight you on that. At least not in seriousness. I might do it as a joke. But if you said that you disagree with me when I say the earth is round, I'm going to say, no, you're wrong. We can know that the earth is round through what we see of the world. Or if you said you disagree with me when I say 2 plus 2 equals 4, I'm going to say, no, we can know that 2 plus 2 equals 4 from what we know about mathematics. So these things must be true. In the same way, when I make the statement, murder is wrong, if you disagree with that, I'm going to say, no, we can know that murder is wrong. It's just true that murder is wrong. So what you're saying is wrong. And if you try to act on that wrong belief that murder is okay, then society is going to stop you by putting you in prison, because we recognize that the statement murder is wrong is just as true as the statement 2 plus 2 equals 4. Murder isn't like ice cream flavors. You can't hold different opinions on it. It's just true that murder is wrong. This means that at least some moral claims, like murder is wrong, are facts, not opinions. And this means they're objective. They're true regardless of what we think about them. And the thing about objective statements is that they require a standard. When I say Bob is 6 feet tall, there must be some distance we call a foot in order for that statement to mean anything. When I say the sky is blue, there must be something we call blue in order for that statement to mean anything. In the same way, when I say it is good to give money to the poor, or it is not good, and not good is just what we mean by bad, to murder people, then what I'm doing is I'm appealing to an objective standard for goodness. Goodness itself, we might call it, by which we measure things up to it to determine whether or not they're good. Now, think about goodness itself. It must also be being itself. That seems like a stretch, but when we think about what the notion of goodness really means, we realize that goodness and existing, are interchangeable. A thing is good to the extent that it exists in the way it's supposed to. That's why when we talk about bad things, we can really break down all bad things to a lack of some goodness that should be there. Blindness, for example, is a lack of sight that should be there. Viciousness is a lack of a virtue that should be there. Malice is a lack of love. And we could go on. Anytime we find some kind of evil, what that really breaks down to is the absence of some good. And that absence of good is really just the absence of some existence that should be there. So goodness and existence are interchangeable. So goodness itself must also be existence itself, or being itself. And if any of you have seen my previous videos, you might know where I'm going with this. Because when we really think about what the definition of God is, we can break it down to this notion of infinite being. Being itself. which we just said goodness itself is. Why is this? Well, because infinite being can't lack anything. So it must have, in addition to having all goodness, it must have all power, and it must have all knowledge. That's what's included in the notion of infinite being, not lacking anything. It also must be the cause of everything else that has being, as the source and standard for being, in the same way goodness is the source and standard for goodness. So infinite being is a cause of all that is. It's all-knowing, it's all-powerful, it's all good. It's also personal because it's able to cause things. It also must be immaterial because matter is necessarily limiting and infinite being can't be limited. It must also be outside of time because time is a limit, so it must be beyond that limit as well. So goodness itself, which we said must exist as a standard in order for any moral statements to be facts, which we said some of them have to be. This thing must be all good, all-knowing, all-powerful, infinite, personal, immaterial, timeless, and the creator of all that is. And that's God.